I am the light. I am the joy. That's who I am. I love her voice. What you didn't hear in the introduction to that video is that a year ago, she was sitting in the audience, got inspired and started performing and doing music. And then here she is a year later on stage. So to me, it was an exciting expression of this finding the divine, perfect self-expression and bringing it forward into the world. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up in another religion, and I was constantly asked the question, so do you know yet what God wants you to do with your life? And it became an obsession with me to answer that question. What is God's plan for my life? What is God calling me to be and do? And is God even calling me to be? And then the questions came up about, if God has a plan for me, do I have a choice about it? And I heard a whole lot of stories of people talking about how they were off on a different plan and they suddenly discovered God's plan and they changed their whole lives and went a different direction, as if the life before that direction was something wrong, somehow wrong. And then I heard other kinds of stories that said that it's preordained, you have no choice about it, you might as well surrender, whatever that meant. I was a kid, I didn't quite understand all that. I also had the awareness, though, that there was some way that people had of figuring that out, some way to understand. And even though I was taught, in one sense, that the God they were describing that had a set plan for me was out there somewhere, not within me, but out there somewhere, there was an aspect of it that I had been taught by my grandmother and grandparents about an immanent sense of the divine, that it wasn't just out there. She'd been a student of Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson, not him personally, but his writings. She wasn't quite that old, but she had all of his writings in her very small library, and I read them and she read them, and somehow that made it possible to have an idea that there's something between that power out there that we think of God as the old man in the sky and the power within us that somehow can communicate. So over time, what I discovered for myself was that I could get some sense within me of what I believed at the time to be the divine speaking to me, or at least giving me indications of God's plan for my life. So at around age 11, I'm at a retreat at Ridgecrest, North Carolina, near Asheville. And they were talking about dedicating your life to full-time ministry, to full-time giving of some sort, not necessarily preacher ministry, but ministry. And as I heard it and I thought about it and I prayed about it all week long at this retreat, towards the end of the week, I finally said to myself, you know, every time I think about that, I feel a certain excitement. I feel a certain kind of goosebumps all over me. And I think that's for me. And as soon as I thought that, before I ever did anything about it, I had those God bumps. You know what we talk about, where you get them all over your body and everything seems to fall into one unified way. And I went, okay, I can do that. And so I did that. I dedicated my life to full-time Christian service. And that was just the beginning of a very long path. Now, I'm no longer part of that tradition. However, that tradition formed some very powerful things in my life. It gave me an answer, or the beginnings of an answer, to this whole business of a plan for my life, a way in which the infinite has some sort of input into who I want to become and who I am becoming. And it was really meaningful and powerful for me at the time. And I built my life choices around that idea. I was a pretty boring kid in high school because I wouldn't listen to dirty jokes because I didn't think it fit with my idea of what I should become. And I could be really annoying to my friends and others by being such a goody two-shoes. And they didn't invite me. Consequently, there are a lot of things about life I didn't learn, because you learn a lot from your friends in high school. But I learned it later in plenty of time. So then I get to this teaching where we are today. Actually, before I got to this, I stepped into another one called a 12-step program. And there I heard this phrase, this idea that God's will, the infinite's will for us, is to be happy, joyous, and free. Boy, what a relief. I didn't have to do anything for other people or to other people to get them to sign on to any kind of religious path. I didn't have to try to make something happen that was outside of my field of experience or expression. I could simply live a life that was geared to being happy, joyous, and free. Wow, what a change. And I walked through that path for a long time, very freely and wonderfully. And then finally was directed into this teaching, the wonderful teaching, Science of Mind, New Thought, Principles, etc. And here, what I discovered is a whole, in some ways, a similar approach, but very, very different. And it's that approach that knows and recognizes that this idea of self-expression, expressing who we are into the world in a rich and easy and wonderful way, that is one of the 4 pillars of life. Self-expression, and often it's translated as work, but it's much more than work. And then there's also our health, our wealth, and our loving relationships. Those 4 quadrants of life make up the way we look at and think about all the areas in which we live and move and have our being. But it has to really start with understanding who we are. That's why I love that song. This is me. This is who I am. And this is why every week we keep coming back and saying again and again, you are an expression of the divine. Life only wants to show up, and you're that opportunity. Nothing required otherwise except to show up and to live and to choose life. And I would say, be happy, joyous, and free. And the tricky and interesting part of that is what makes us happy, joyous, and free are those events and ideas and thoughts in which we are participating in full integrity with who we are. Someone asked me once in the class, so if I wanted to become a ballerina, I could, because Spirit allows all these things to happen. You just set your intention and go for it. And I said, well, you might could, but I certainly couldn't. I was clumsy from the day I was born. I did take ballet actually, but I was not a ballerina. I was just the big guy that stood there and threw all the little girls up in the air and around and about so that they could dance. And I didn't have to dance, thank goodness. So I guess you could, but why would I want to do that? Why would I want to become something that isn't me, isn't the truth of me? Whereas being a person of compassion and caring, saying yes to those emotional feelings in me that said, this is who you are, was not a hard, different kind of thing to do. It was very simple and very expressive of myself. See, one of the first things that we can do, if you're not sure where you are, if what you're living and what you're doing is really true for you and really real for you and really what you want to be, first of all, we need to start with the idea that the outward expression, the self-expression is always perfect. Perfect as in fully matching up with who we know ourselves to be. You say, that can't be true for me. You don't know what a mess my life is on the outside, what a mess my life is, period. My question then is that a perfect expression of who you are on the inside, of who you are in mind and consciousness? Now, I'm not talking about those things that may happen to you from the outside that don't have anything to do with what you're giving. Those crazy things happening in the world and all of the difficulties and struggles that the world is going through right now. I'm talking about your individual experience of those and how that is rich and full and free. Yeah. So if you're not sure, there's a surefire way to start to make it happen and start to bring it to the front. And Florence Scovel-Shinn who is who we're building our information on this month, had this to say. She said, if you're having problem with that, you're not sure, then affirm, say to yourself, say to that power within you, infinite spirit. And I would add to that, infinite spirit within me, not in some idea of God out there, but infinite spirit within me opens the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me see clearly the perfect plan. Now, plan. Oh dear. I mean, I got to have a plan. For the next 5 minutes, yes. We live in a world that is changing so rapidly right now. It's pretty hard to have a definite step-by-step plan for your future, though you may have one and it may work well for you. But for so many of us, it's like, my plan right now is to be love, to be joy, to be freedom. I think I said I'm coming to you live from Ajijic, Mexico, where I am participating in the Convention of the Americas, which is a wonderful CSL convention down here for folks from all over Latin America and the US, the Americas, we're included. So and it's a gathering of ministers and practitioners and others who are so happy to be here and so happy to be part of this world and to share. As it's a small town, so every time I go anywhere, walk down to the square or walk around, I'm bumping into someone that I know and celebrating the joy of the path we have walked together at some point in our lives. It's a great remembering and celebrating. So my plan and my desire and my recognition is that the ultimate design for my life is simply and easily to love. Years ago, I worked with this idea a great deal once I became a CSL minister, and looking for that vision statement that we all want about what am I living, what am I doing? And it became very clear for me that my vision, my purpose, my idea of my things to do, the way to be in the world, is to live love, teach truth, and know God. That's a big order. It's not what I'll ever complete or finish, and that's how it should be. But as I am doing that, as I am focused in that, then I have a greater expression, a greater idea, a greater perfect self-expression happening in the world around me. Opportunities to live love, opportunities to teach truth, opportunities to know the infinite by seeing how it's working in my life, showing up perfectly, easily, and freely, or sometimes not. One of the things that we have often going on in this whole idea of self-expression, especially when our world around us, the world outside is simply a mirror of what's inside. So if the things out there are looking pretty crazy to you and pretty off-center, there are some things that get in the way that can block our free expression of who we are. It's still an expression of what's going on in us, but it may not be the deeper truth of who we are. And that is the idea sometimes of the things we are most afraid of, our fears. Your fears are beliefs in things that are not what you think you want. And one of the most powerful ways to deal with fear is to walk right up to it and say hello. Because usually it dissolves at that point. Or it reveals to you the thing underneath it that you really want. Wow, fear, afraid. I was often afraid of being too separate and alone. That somehow being in this job meant I had to be alone. That I had to have a solitary life like a monk. And as I faced that fear and looked at it, I went, holy Moses, I can feel it, and I can feel lonely sometimes. But then I look at my life. I am surrounded I have multitudes of people that I love and love me, and multitudes of people I can relate to at any given moment. People all over the world in every time zone. So whatever I'm feeling, if I need to talk to somebody, middle of the night or whenever, somebody in one of my time zones or one of the time zones is available. I'm never alone. But I had to really look at that and get clean and clear about it to move forward. The other thing that Florence Scovel-Shinn says is that a belief in delay, not yet, Diego, our belief in delay is often the thing that slows down our full expression. You know, we have a belief, I can be healthy, but not yet. I can be prosperous, but not yet. I used to say I will bloom when I'm older. I'll be a late bloomer. Sure enough, I was, but the only reason I was is because I believed that, and that delayed my bloom. You know, it's so powerful. If you wonder if you have a belief in delay, look around your home or look around your work life. Do you have projects that you've just put off and not bothered to do yet? That's a belief in delay. That it's okay to delay your good. It's okay to put it off a while, or that there's some positive reason to do that. So let go of that belief in delay by cleaning it up, finishing it. However small it is, it can open up the doorway for the flow of that delay. Now, the other thing you can do is ask for direct direction. And thank you for that from Florence Scovel-Shinn, where she says, the infinite spirit, give me a definite lead. Reveal to me my perfect self-expression. Show me which talent I am to make use of now. It isn't that the divine is going to impress something upon you that isn't you and you don't want. It's that those things within you, those talents, those ideas, those things you want to do, you have an urge to paint. That is a divine guiding you in that direction. You have an urge to, I came down here without a real strong agenda the first 4 days, except there were a couple of people I wanted to see, and I have. And I found such joy and fun in that. I have been following the joy and following the fun. And I have had full days every day here with different people at different times, and many of them just bumping into on the square and then spending time drinking coffee and eating and walking around and telling stories and all of that wonderful interactive thing that I love to do. My joy of people, my joy of being in loving relationships, that's the talent that was pulling on me this week. That was God's will for my life, if you want to use that old language. That was the way in which life is pulling me forward and pulling me forth. So the divine in you is such an important thing to remember. This is not some external thing, not part of who you are. But the divine in you is having life through you as you. It's the things you love. It's the things you have passion for. So I would ask you then, what are your dreams? What do you dream about being, becoming, doing that feel good, that are joyful, that match who you are, not trying to be somebody other than who you are, but that really is the power and essence of your perfect expression. Now, maybe you've been taught you can't have your dreams, that your dreams are too big or too small, or that somehow your dreams are wrong or selfish. You know, I used to be told a lot that you're just being, what you want is just too big, it's just too much. And that it's selfish to want to have a life like that, where I could travel the world, where I could go and see and do and be and know lots of people. That was just too much. And what I learned early on in my life is that when other people told me it was too much, all that meant was that they didn't know how to do it and give it to me. But they didn't have to. Because the energy and power to live your dreams is already within you. You simply ask the divine. You simply declare that the divine as you, in you, is living that dream, and watch it unfold. Fasten your seatbelt if you're going to do that, because you will find things moving pretty fast sometimes, especially if what you are and who you are is different from the way you are living right now. Another idea is, what would you do? I love this question. What would you do with your life if it didn't matter whether you were paid for it or not? Whether you got paid for your time or not, you would do this because of the sheer joy of doing it. Some of the best parts of my ministry are those kinds of things. Those kinds of ideas and things which just bring me joy for the sheer joy of doing it. I go to teen camp, as you know, I talk about it all the time. CSL teen camp. Have been doing it for 23 years now, with hanging out on the mountainside in this case, well, most all cases, with a bunch of teenagers learning these teachings, learning how to live their lives more freely, and breaking through barriers of self-defeating ideas and nonsense. I don't get paid for that. I do that for the sheer joy of it. It is my gift to the world. One of them. I have many, but that's one of them. And I will continue to do that as long as I'm welcome, and as long as I find the joy in it. And some days the joy is just getting up the hill after a full day of activity and experience that is more than I'm accustomed to. But that's okay too. It's all good. What are those things that you love to do so much it doesn't matter whether you're paid for it or not? Because there's a way to give that and then get back so much more. Prosperity is all about all of those areas of life. Loving. It's all about the love. It's all about the health. It's all about the work and gifts that you give, and the financial receiving that goes on too. I remember an old statement many years ago from a preacher. You know, just try to outgive God and see if that works. Never have, never can. So what would you do? What would bring you that kind of joy and bring you forward? But you can take a nice breath and realize there's no pressure here. There's nothing like you've got to do this or you're going to go to hell. We know in our teaching, heaven and hell is a state of consciousness. And many of us already went to hell long before we got into this teaching. And instead, we know that our perfect self-expression will never be labor. It'll never be difficult. It'll never be something we have trouble doing. But of such absorbing interest that it will seem like play. When you find those things, latch onto them, trust the infinite power within you to supply you with everything you need to do it, to move forward in those directions. There's nothing standing against you, because we live in a universe of only one power. You deserve that kind of life. You deserve that kind of feeling and freedom, because you are absolutely wonderful, and so am I, and so it is.
Just do it. Don't talk about it. Don't put it off. Just do it. Just say it. I'll speak my truth. I'll state my needs. Just say it. Just claim it. Act as if you know it's done. Just claim it. Just breathe. Breathe in faith. Breathe out fear. Just breathe. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it. Oh, do it. Just do it. Come on, do it. I'm gonna Every time I criticize and focus on my flaws, I don't realize that I am worthy and capable, and I deserve to have it all. So now's my time to rise and shine, go for the dreams that are in my mind. Take one small step and not be afraid, 'cause with faith and love, I've got it made. Just do it. Just do it.